How's it going, muchachos? Hope you've had a lovely start to 2024. Been a while since we've sat here and done one of these.
Hasn't it?
If you're new here, subscribed over the Christmas break, welcome. Good to have you here. You're about to witness a journey into cinema through the lens of one man's... It's not quite that intense. We just go through what I watched in the previous month, pull up Letterboxd, look at it last month on Letterboxd. It's in the title. You're probably on Letterboxd. In which case, follow me. You can do that right now. But listen, obviously, I don't need to be the first to explain. Christmas period, it gets a little bit busy. So I did what I usually love to do, which is put off doing these and then just decide to lump 2 months together. This time, it's the lucky turn of November and December. Let's have a round of applause for those ones, guys. As usual, some of these I've got full reviews for, and I'll put links to those in the description. I will time code this video as well for specific films, so you can just jump to whatever film you want to hear me talking about. But if you do that, and you don't decide to watch my lovely face in full, just know that I'm judging you a little bit inside secretly. So before we get into the good stuff, the juicy nitty-gritty of everything I was watching in the previous 2 months, get yourself a beverage. I mean, come on. It's beverage time. I've got myself a coffee. Conveniently here. It's gone cold now. But it is a coffee nonetheless. We're going to sip on it throughout this. And then I guess all that's left to do is really well pull up November. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen, November. Start things off with Bottoms on the 4th. This is a film which I've been waiting to see for far too long. It just took ages to come out in the UK. I don't think it ever looked like it was actually going to come out in cinemas over here. And then they were like, no, it is going to have a little cinema release. Managed to get over to see it with a Q&A from Emma Seligman herself, who directed the film, who previously did Shiver Baby. I love her, she's fantastic. This was exactly the silly shit I wanted. Felt a lot like a Wet Hot American Summer vibe, which makes sense given Banks producing credit here. I'm a huge fan of Wet Hot American Summer, and this is more of its own thing, but just, I don't know, that's the best and closest thing I could possibly compare this to in terms of comedy vibe, in that sort of just doing nonsense. But I love the central leads, Edebiri and obviously Rachel Sennett, who I'm not alone on that. The internet bloody loves her for good reason. They are so good here. 4 stars for Bottoms. A very solid start to November, if I may say so myself. I may. On the 5th, though, we caught up with a film which I don't know. This is going off swimmingly. I think I'd heard good things about it earlier in the year. Or maybe I just convinced myself I'd heard good things about it earlier in the year. But it's like a trashy comedy film called Joyride. I watched it on the 5th. It wasn't good, but it was fun, and it ticked that trashy comedy box that you need to hit that late night, kick back and watch just nonsensical comedy. Surprised at how touching it was able to get in places as well. Do think lots of the comedy misses more than it hits, but hey, it does what it needs to. Like halfway through this thing, it suddenly begins to kind of teeter towards a really sad storyline that's genuinely quite moving, and it kind of goes for it. 3 stars for Joyride, and then we bloody well took a Joyride into the 6th. Oh, I need to get better at these segues, man. I watched No One Will Save You on the 6th of December. This is a film which I'd heard a lot of great things about. Everyone was raving about it at a certain point, and it wasn't very good. Sorry to burst that bubble. Brian Duffield must be stopped for his crimes against remotely cool ideas. So much of this film was really annoying, and I don't just mean like that kind of, there are plot holes thing, because I don't like being that guy that watches films and goes, that wouldn't happen, that wouldn't happen, that wouldn't happen, that doesn't make sense. But the film doesn't really help itself there, and I think, for me at least, it was asking a bit too much of me. Appreciate that might be a strange thing to say when you're dealing with literal fucking aliens, but it really bugs me when you see alien films that are just doing haunted house things, but they replace the ghost with an alien. I don't find aliens scary when they're doing that shit. It does this big kind of mystery lingering over the whole thing of this central character's past, and then it reveals it, and you just think, what are we... 2.5 stars for No One Will Save You. I was bloody well wishing someone would save me while I was watching it. I wish someone would tap me on the shoulder and say, Stuart, turn this off. But then on the 9th, I kicked back with a classic, which I hope a classic in many people's eyes, which is Drop Dead Gorgeous. This, weirdly, is incredibly nostalgic for me. I vividly remember my family loving this film. I don't know if that is a strange film to have watched as a child, but there are pieces of this film that are just ingrained in my memory. It is still a hoot, this one. A lot of that mockumentary stuff doesn't work quite as well as others that I've seen. It certainly has aged a little bit in that sense. A lot of the comedy has aged, but everyone's given a darn hoot of a performance. I really love the whole cast they've got here, and it is a good stacked cast. 4 stars. But then on the 10th, I was in the mood for just like a cozy rewatch of something that I knew was going to hit the bases I needed it to hit. It was going to make me feel warm, cozy. None other than Shithouse, or I think it's called Freshman Year over here in the UK. Always bugs me when we get entirely different names in the UK versus the US. Why do it? I've talked about this one before on the channel. I really, truly love this film. I think it is fantastic. It is Cooper Raiff's directorial debut. He went on to do Cha-Cha Real Smooth, which is his most recent film, if you've seen that. I love this guy. I just think he brings this really genuine, younger, kind of, I don't know, messy approach to his films, and not in a negative way, in this really authentic way. Unbelievably charming, quickly becoming one of my go-to comfort watches. Love the shit so much. 4.5 stars for Shithouse. Cooper Raiff, man, he smashed it. He smashed it. I don't know why I have a pen in my hand now. Then on the 15th, I watched, oh god, I forgot I'd watched this. My buddy Ren came round, Ren Geekness, I'll put a link to his channel, what a legend. He came round and we kicked back with some beers and we watched Slotherhouse. Jesus Christ, no amount of beers could save this. It's kind of nuts. You want a certain thing from a film called Slotherhouse, right? You just want to watch a sloth kill people. You don't want it to be good. We were not under any pretense this was going to be a good film, right? But we did just want to see a sloth murder people in a slasher way. And it can't really even pull that off. It just doesn't show things, really. So really all you've got is just like porn-level acting and narrative all together without the kills you really want to see from a film called Slotherhouse, in which a sloth goes on a murdering rampage through a fraternity. Sorry, I should correct for my American viewers. Not fraternity, sorority. I got it the wrong way around, but forgive me. 1.5 stars. Then I watched Down Low, which is a film I hadn't heard about, but I think was a South by Southwest film this year. I think this was the first film I saw mentioned by actors online after the strikes ended. I think Zachary Quinto posted about it, and I was like, huh, yeah, why not? Let's whack it on. I don't want to say too much about it because I think it's surprises come from the places it ends up going narratively. Falls on the try-hard side of dark comedy more than it does actual genuine dark laughs, but had an enjoyable enough time. Zachary Quinto, always watchable. He is always watchable. I wasn't lying. I love the dude. He's a great actor. Yeah, it's fun enough, and it does satisfy that kind of dark comedy itch. But I think as you go through the thing, the darker it gets, it's kind of like the more enjoyable, but simultaneously the more frustrating it gets in the way it sort of knows how dark it's going. 3 stars for Down Low. Enjoyable enough time. Then on the 19th, I watched a film I've never seen before, which I think from many people consider a classic. It is LA Confidential. I was in the mood for like a noir film, right? A detective thriller. And it's always thrown at me by streaming services. I finally did it. There is a big Kevin Spacey sort of elephant in the room, but hey. But this one was a really good time. I really loved the kind of 90s-ness of this all in that very kind of golden era Hollywood vibe that it's going for as well. Late to this one, thoroughly enjoyed the 90s-ness of it all, disguised as a 50s noir. Hey, I just bloody well said that. But listen, it's good stuff, immaculate vibes, Guy Pearce is being Guy Pearce, 4 stars for LA Confidential. But then I watched on the 20th, another film that I missed, but I'm doing that sort of picking out films I want to catch up on that everyone said was good when it came out thing towards the end of the year, and I watched No Hard Feelings, which is a adult... it's just a comedy. I was going to say adult comedy. That feels weird. Why was I going to say that? It's a comedy starring Jennifer Lawrence in which she answers a Craigslist ad to date this couple's son because they want to teach him life experiences and get him a girlfriend, and she also wants to get a money out of it to fix her car. The premise of this one sets itself up as a really fun, like over-the-top, raunchy comedy, and it looks like it's going down a really good route for a lot of it, and then it just kind of begins to nosedive towards the latter half. For me, it felt quite apparent that they didn't really have much more than that premise. It goes to wholly dull, weird, and kind of boring places and didn't really give a shit. I wish it had gone darker and less kind of like happy, satisfying as an ending, because its characters are fucking freaks. It's kind of like, look how weird they are, but they're not really. Though they are bad people. 2.5 stars for No Hard Feelings. Then on the 21st, I watched another film which everyone banged on about how great it was when it came out, and I took a long time to watch, but it was finally on streaming. That film was Air. And I don't know if there's a trend coming through here, but there's a lot of films which everyone was telling me was great, and I was going into expecting good things that just didn't give me good things. Air was not good. I really ended up kind of being annoyed by this film. I think it's one of those films where it's got a good ensemble cast and everyone's doing acting, so everyone can be like, yay, yay, ensemble cast stuff. But what are we doing here, really, is what I was asking myself the entire film. And I don't think the film ever posits an interesting answer to that. 2 stars for Air. I know it's all subjective, and like obviously like the award season stuff is all nonsense, but I've seen some people genuinely suggest this should get awards. We'll move on to the next film I watched on the 22nd. Another film which came out earlier in the year is now on streaming. Some people had said it was good. A Haunting in Venice. Not good. Just not a good film. I have a strange relationship with Kenneth Branagh as a director in that, broadly, I think he shouldn't be allowed behind cameras. But every now and then he does do some alright stuff. And actually, I haven't seen the second one of his Poirot films, the Nile one, but I kind of was a bit of a fan of his first one. I kind of went into this one not expecting greatness, but just expecting to have that kind of murder mystery itch scratched for me, and it's just filled with all the nonsense I dislike about Kenneth Branagh's films most of the time. The problem with most of Kenneth Branagh's directorial efforts is they always end up just feeling directed. This may sound like an incredibly obvious thing to say, but I think it is what bugs me the most about him as a director. There isn't a single moment in this film that didn't feel like him directing something and like manipulating everything to get the coolest or the darkest or the most like spooky, surprising stuff out of it. But the mystery isn't that interesting, especially going through it in a way which feels so constructed. Just takes out all of the fun, I think, of the mystery here, of the murder mystery vibe. 2 stars for Haunting in Venice. Then on the 23rd, I think I was feeling a bit ill at this point. I don't know, in November and December, it was a period of like just illness, and then feeling like I was getting better, and then just feeling ill again. I don't know if everyone else has had that, but I wanted a kind of nice, guaranteed banger that I hadn't seen before that would lift my spirits a little bit. And I was suggested Good Morning over on Twitter. This is the Ozu film from 1959 about 2 young boys that kind of, they end up doing like a bit of a protest because their parents refused to buy them a television. But there's all sorts of different threads from the community around them. I truly fell kind of in love with this film as soon as it started. It very quickly, immediately, and, you know, as expected from an Ozu film, taps incredibly effectively into the kind of small, nitty-gritty daily life routine of its characters that all just feel incredibly believable, but all feel really charming and fun and weird in their own way. I would take a bullet for that kid, though. I would do it. The kid in this film, as far as like cute kids in film goes, this dude he's straight up there. I think it's a toss-up between the kid from this and the kid from Yi Yi, the Edward Yang film. Like, if they had a fight, I'm not suggesting these 2 kids should actually fight, but maybe they should. 5 stars for Good Morning. If you haven't seen it, honestly, get it on your watch list ASAP. It is so, so good. It is delightful. It also begins and ends with characters shitting themselves. More films should do this. More films should be unafraid of having characters that shit themselves. Lord knows Air, or Haunting in Venice, would have benefited from a character shitting themselves. Good grief. 27th, we decided to watch The Hunger Games. I haven't seen it for a long, long time. In fact, I thought I hadn't seen this film before, but apparently I had, according to Letterboxd. I really hated the camera work in this film. This was of that time when it was truly just kind of a fucking Wild West for camera work. Like, they just attached a camera to a bear and said, just fucking go and shoot something. Crazy, man. Honestly, I felt a bit nauseated at certain points. When they're in the Hunger Games, which is what we're all there to watch, you can't see shit, can you? Also, obviously not stupid that they can just put some fucking literal monster dogs in. It's alright though. 3 stars for The Hunger Games. Then I finished the month off on the 29th with Thanksgiving, a film which I saw the trailer for and just immediately thought, this is not gonna be good, is it? And then suddenly people were saying it was actually pretty good, so I went and saw it, and it was kind of fun. I've said a lot on Twitter, on here, everywhere I can. Sometimes I lean out the window on my street and I just bloody well scream it at people that we should... where are all the good original new slashers, huh? It feels hacked to pieces in the edit and shares a little too much with better slashers, but it's hard to argue too much with silly over-the-top kills and tongue-in-cheek humour. I would have loved to have seen this. I think this would have been a better film, for my taste at least, if it had been a killer that was just this unexplained, don't know how he keeps surviving this thing, big presence. I think I'm getting a little bit tired of slashers that feel like they need to be this kind of murder mystery where we reveal the character, or it's like who did it, who didn't do it. It all feels very screamy when it happens. But with that, we're off November and we're off to bloody well December. This one is a bit of a smaller month just because it's December, it's Christmas. Everyone's got other shit to do, you know, but it's also another month of just trying to catch up on things as we get to the end of the year. So in that sense, I start things off on the 2nd with Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. It was really nice, a really wonderful little film and very charming, and did do everything I think I needed it to do as a coming of age film. Rachel McAdams is on a whole new level of wonderful here, and there's such a genuine sincerity to all of the teenage interactions. Yeah, 2 things it gets crucially right there. Rachel McAdams is just a delight in this film. She's so good, she's so likable. And secondly, I think it's easy to write younger characters and young character interactions in a way which feels very artificial, especially when it's written by someone that is not of that age. But this film gets it, I think. And I say that as a dude, like I was never a young girl growing up, obviously, so I never had that experience. I can't literally say this is exactly how it felt, but it feels authentic, crucially. It feels genuine. 3.5 stars for Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Then on the 4th, I watched Wonka, a film which I had no hopes for. 0 expectations. I've got a full review for it so you can see what I actually thought in its entirety on the film. Not terrible. What on earth? I guess, I don't know why we didn't expect this, but it's just Paddington, really, with Wonka. And that means that you're watching a film that isn't as good as Paddington, just doing Paddington things. Kind of annoying, but at the same time, you can't really go too wrong with that formula. Didn't love it, didn't think it was particularly great, haven't really thought about it since. 3 stars. Then on the 8th, I watched another film which I think took a long time to come out in the UK, and I missed it in cinemas, and I finally was waiting for it to come on streaming. I sound like a broken record in almost every one of these videos. I apologise for that. But it was Theatre Camp, which finally came out on Disney Plus in December, and I was very excited to check out. But I found the first half to be a little bit too lazy and not as funny as it thinks it is. But honestly, this thing got going, and I had a fucking hoot with the end. I knew it was going to be intentionally obnoxious and very theatre kiddie, but it takes too long to get past feeling obvious, right? And obvious and lazy in its jokes, and it's doing the same thing. And yeah, okay, yeah, sure, we've seen it. I don't think the mockumentary approach was particularly great overall, but eventually it just clicked. I loved the kind of building to this big crescendo in the form of the Joan Still musical, which, by the way, I'd watch an entire thing of. I maybe have a super crush on Molly Gordon. That often helps things. 3.5 stars for Theatre Camp. Then on the 13th, I watched a film which I'd been waiting to watch for, oh God, I need to stop saying this. I've been waiting to watch it for a while, waiting for it to come out. Finally caught it. It's Priscilla. I've just put a full review for that on the channel, so please do go and check out my full thoughts there if you can. Coppola's sort of operating on cruise control here, but it works so damn well. A hugely engrossing dive through a young woman's loneliness. Looks great, sounds great, just did everything I needed it to do. I don't think it's particularly groundbreaking, or rather, I don't think it particularly mines a whole amount of fresh, new, interesting ideas, and it does kind of have the same idea throughout, but it's done well. It's really, really effective. I had a great time with it. 4 stars for Priscilla. Then on the 15th is another film which just sort of came a little bit out of nowhere for me, and I saw everyone was banging on about, and I thought I gotta go check it out. It's the new Godzilla film, Godzilla Minus One. I should say the new Japanese Godzilla film, because obviously the new American Godzilla film is coming out this year. It looks silly as all shit. I'm a big fan of big smashy monster films, and it satisfies that as well as satisfying a narrative and a character thread that does genuinely feel like it elevates things a bit more than just smashy. Felt so good to be watching an actually effective Zilla film on the big screen again. Yeah, really great to be sat in a almost entirely full cinema screen watching a new Japanese Godzilla film that just delivers, right? It's good. I liked it. It felt meaty. It felt juicy. It had weight. 3.5 stars for Godzilla Minus One. Then on the 16th, I watched a really random Netflix true crime series called Last Stop Larrimah. You may not have heard about it. I certainly hadn't heard about it until my brother was like, hey, watch this. Essentially, it is about a really remote town in Australia in the outback with a population of 10 people. One guy gets killed, and every one of those 10 people is the most insane batshit Aussie person you could possibly picture. Picture every one of your Aussie stereotypes. These people, they are this. It's a really interesting documentary in that it is obviously very kind of at first glance silly and over the top. You're watching these 10 extremely vibrant Australian characters who clearly know something that happened here. A dude doesn't go disappearing in a town of 10 people without many of them knowing something that's gone on here. And it's just a big mess of people in this very remote, tiny village just kind of borderline hating each other and trying to not suggest that they had anything to do with this missing disappearance. But it does end up actually kind of touching on, with that, some kind of weirdly nice and moving thoughts on community. It was a really weird watch. I enjoyed it. It was good. The single most Aussie shit I've ever seen, 3.5 stars. Then on the 20th, I watched the new Aquaman film. Listen, I am a kind of defender of the first Aquaman film. I don't think it was particularly great, but I do love James Wan, and I think it was so silly and over the top in a way which just felt really fun. And I did not have particularly high hopes for this new one, but I was kind of ready for a so bad it was good Aquaman film. And it was really just not good, because the thing that got me through the first Aquaman and that made it enjoyable was James Wan's kind of touch as a director, his understanding of how to make cheesy over the top things work. And this film just feels like his vision hacked up. So when you lose all that stuff, you're just left with nonsense. I've got a full review for it on the channel, so please do check that out. But 2 stars for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Then on the 23rd, we're in Christmas territory. We're getting to Christmas watches, you know. We're all back home. It's cozy. I decided to rewatch Maestro with the family. And yeah, listen, it's still great. I really, really am surprised at how much I thoroughly love this film. Of course, my full review is still on the channel if you want to go check out my actual big thoughts on this, but for now, Giant Snoopy should interrupt all film arguments. I stand by this statement fully. He really should. 4 stars for Maestro. You could watch the cathedral scene in this on a fucking Nokia phone and still feel the most immersed you've ever felt in a film. On the 25th, Christmas itself, we watched the most Christmas film of all time, the best Christmas film of all time, I should add, Home Alone. Ladies and gentlemen, I love this film. I don't think there's anyone that says they don't like Home Alone is a fucking fraud. Stone cold classic, also just baffling that these guys didn't give up after the iron on the head. Chris Columbus's direction is so unbelievably charming. Everything about this is so Christmassy, it's wonderful, it's the strangest film, but in the greatest way. And every time I watch it, I just think, you would stop after you get hit on the head with an iron, wouldn't you? Like, why carry on? These criminals are nut jobs. Also, said it before in many different ways, but Kevin in this film is a 58-year-old man disguised as a child. I will not hear anything other. Good grief, the way he talks to people, the way he dresses, the way he bloody well moves through this world. He is an old person. You cannot convince me that Kevin has not seen an entire life. 4.5 stars for Home Alone. It's the best Christmas film. It is the best Christmas film. Then on the 26th, to finish off my December watches, the day after Christmas, Boxing Day, some might call it. Everyone would call it. We decided to kick back with Witness. I'm not sure why we picked Witness, but we did. Harrison Ford, for whatever reasons the film explains, having to live alongside an Amish community to hide from police because there's a big corruption scandal that he's unfolded. And ladies and gentlemen, I have never seen such a horny Amish film in my life. Good grief. Oh my God, not one scene without the most sexual tension I have ever seen. Truly, I don't know what happened between Kelly McGillis and Harrison Ford. Maybe I could Google it. I haven't done it yet. But I have not seen two people so eager to fuck each other on camera. Aside from that though, what a film. What an absolute banger. Everything about this is exactly what I want from an 80s thriller. It's got the kind of police corruption scandal thriller side of things. It's got amazing cinematography, an amazing soundtrack. There's like a 10-minute sequence of like 50 Amish dudes building a barn. It's so good. 4.5 stars for Witness. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of our November and December wrap-up, our little festive edition of last month on Letterboxd. I do hope you've had fun, and I do hope you finished your beverage. Lord knows you had enough time to. If you've seen any of the films that I saw, any of different opinions, please let me know in the comments down below. But more importantly, let me know any films that you've been watching and any suggestions, any recommendations you have for films that you want me to check out that I might be able to get round to on future editions in the next month or so. Let me know any of those suggestions in the comments below and we'll get talking. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see me talk about more shit, please do go ahead and click subscribe. Helps me out big time. Hit the like button as well. Also helps me out big time here. I've got my best of 2023 list coming out on the channel very soon as well. So that'll be very, very fun. Do not miss that. On that note though, I do need to go and eat something. I'm hungry. I'll see you guys very, very soon for some more thoughts and more films. But until next time, watch Witness. Honestly, please watch Witness. You are going to get so horny.